Welcome to Two Bees in a Pod. I am Bilala.
And I am B. Leonga, and this is a podcast about immigrant experiences in the U.S., sharing our perspectives on various topics,
Including straddling cultures, fitting in, staying connected, learning and unlearning the good, the bad, and the ugly.
On this week's episode, we have Daniel Tse, who is the founder of Cameroon Advocacy Network, and he's going to tell us all about that organization and the work that they're doing. But Daniel, before we get into official business, we always start our episodes with an icebreaker. So the icebreaker for today is, if you had to pick one Cameroonian food to eat for the rest of your life, you cannot eat any other Cameroonian food, pick one chop. Which one would it be?
As a proud Malcolm boy, I chew all the way. But I think that Aero is sometimes underrated, so maybe that'll be my second choice. Just I love it. I just grew up here. Achu grandma made it so special, so I think I can eat Achu for breakfast, lunch, and supper. So
Staying
I
close
know
to the roots.
I'm gonna get stoned for this comment, but I stick with it.
What about you, Bilala?
I don't know why we're talking about food again this week when I've said I cannot choose. I feel, and I'm like a seasonal eater. Like, I might go through a phase where one week I'll eat something every day, and then the next week I'm ready. So I don't know. I know you said one, but I feel like I have to give my short list of 5. That is a potential. Because of the tip of my tongue, I want to say ekwang. But I've never really eaten ekwang like for a month where I was like, okay, I'm good. I feel like Eru could pass. If not, Fufukwan and Jamajama. Oh, Koki and plantains. Ombongo chobi.
Fufukwan and Jamajama is a solid choice. Yeah, but I'll copy Daniel. I'll stick with my roots and I'm going to say ekwang. I have to. And I don't think I could get tired of ekwang, to be honest. Because it tastes different when it's fresh. It tastes different when it has slept for 1 day. It tastes different when it has slept for 2 or 3 days. So I feel like you still have variety within your choice.
I mean, you know what? To be fair, because like for fufu it depends. Like, did they wrap it in a leaf? Did they cook in a fireside kitchen? Because smoke is an essential component.
Oh yeah, that's a flavor.
Like fufu that they wrapped in a leaf, cooked in a fireside kitchen, and then it slept in a banda overnight. That's different level fufu.
Okay, well.
Oh my God. Wow. You guys just making me remember home right now. I think, it's just amazing. It's just amazing, honestly, how much varieties we have, and sometimes we think about anything. And I bet when I have to choose, the areas have to choose. But honestly, just reminds me of home, so it's amazing.
All right. So, like I said in the beginning, Daniel is the founder of Cameroon Advocacy Network, and that's an organization that advocates for the rights of not just Cameroonian immigrants in the U.S., but Black immigrants. And they collaborate with different groups to push initiatives to, again, advocate for freedoms and rights for Black immigrants in the U.S. And Daniel's going to get into all of that and tell us about it. But before we do, Daniel, can you just tell us your own story of how you came to the U.S.? What has your journey been like as a Cameroonian immigrant?
Thank you so much, Beatrice. Each time I tell the story, it still feels like a miracle. I'm sure thousands of other Cameroonians can relate. But growing up as a young man in Cameroon, I never ever imagined I'll be here, at least not in this country. I always had a big dream and ambition to be an ambassador, to work international relations, to do this amazing stuff with the United Nations. So all these big dreams that I had, but none of them were geared towards being in America. So I was born in Bamenda. I went to school in Bamenda. Sometime along the way, I moved to the Southwest region, specifically Kondo City, where I obtained my first school leaving certificate. I was like a Kumba boy. I'm very familiar with Kumba, Isangele, all that area. That's basically where I grew up. That's where I started to understand and have fun in life. I will later on when I moved back to Amanda with my grandmom, and when it was time to go to university, I went to University of the Tuswa. I'm sure most of you guys understand why that was the case again, because we didn't at the time we didn't have prominent universities in the northwest regions of Cameroon. So I moved to SWA in Yaoundé, where I obtained my bachelor's in law, and later my master's in law as well. After that, tried several options, wrote an exam, I passed fair interview, wrote ERIC, passed fair interview, tried all sorts of things I could try, but because I didn't have somebody in the system, to help me. Basically, doing my one of my interviews, I think it was the ERIC interview, the ENAM interview. I was asked, parents are key, right? And I didn't know. I said, no, je n'ai pas le parent. I don't have that. I said, je n'ai pas le parent. Is that don't tell me the kid? I don't understand what they're asking, But and long story short, I had to move back to Amanda, and having understood after years of studying the history of our country and the history of how we became one Cameroon, I got involved into the protest that was happening in late 2016 and late 2017, along with the Lawyers Association, based from my connections after law school in Yaoundé. So that's how I got wrapped up in all the the shaga that was going on in Cameroon. And so, long story short, I had to flee, as many other young men and women are doing right now because of the instability. And I found myself, at the US-Mexico border seeking asylum. So I again was fortunate enough. I call myself blessed to be among the less than 1% of the folks who are actually being granted asylum, who represent themselves. And so I guess I was blessed. I won my asylum while in detention after almost a year of detention, and I got released here in California. And that's how I started life in America. I was homeless for about a week. Before I moved to Texas to be with family. I moved to Lubbock, Texas, of all places. Those who understand America understand the history of Lubbock. It's a very interesting area. I don't know Cameroonians there. It was 7 years for me. So I had to move back to California, and I struggled with homelessness for a little while, about 5 weeks. I got back to my feet. I started doing landscaping, all kinds of odd jobs, and later on, I thought about going back to school. I was working as a meat clerk at a grocery store, and that's how I figured my way out in life. And I went back to law school, and during my time in detention, I got the vision about creating something like Cameroon Advocacy Network, which we're going to talk more about it later. But that's basically my story, and that's how I found myself here today.
That's an incredible story. And you said that you represented yourself, right, for your asylum case. Was that simply out of necessity? Was it out of really not, I don't know, did you learn the system yourself and really have the confidence that you could, you understood what you needed to put forward to win that case? Or again, was it simply because you simply didn't have the resources and you had no other choice?
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. I didn't have the resources. I mean, at the time, there were some organizations like mine now today that were offering some pro bono assistance to folks who were detained. I didn't get a chance to be selected as one of the people who benefit that because again, there's just so much, demand for legal help as there's capacity for it. And so, people, got randomly selected for them to be provided, free legal assistance. I didn't get the opportunity. And so in the meantime, I got in contact with one other group, which I work with them today, Friends of Original Detainees, who, provided me with some assistance. Basically, they provided me with, some materials about how the laws in immigration works. I asked questions, asked them to send me books, send me, past cases and stuff, and I was able to study, and that's how I was able to familiarize myself with with the laws of, the United States and how, immigration works. And so with that, I was equipped enough, to represent myself, and I think that's how I was able to navigate that. So there's definitely wisdom and power in reading books. As our parents always say, but the joke that runs within the community is that if you want to kill the Cameroonian person, write the secret in the book, they're never going to read it. But it's important that you read.
Wow. I don't like that joke, please.
It's a joke. I'm just saying, but I heard it before, but I was like, that's not true because when we definitely read and when we definitely try to explore options, we find the solutions most often, and that's one of the things that we push even with the Cameroon Advocacy Network. We try to explore the options. where we train people about how to navigate systems yourself. One big issue is that we come from a place where we don't trust systems, or systems don't work. I think in America we all agree that systems work if you understand or you know how to navigate it. And so there's power in understanding, finding resources, really understanding, and you definitely want to get to the solution.
Agreed. So just for the listeners, what Daniel was referring to earlier is the Anglophone crisis, which we have talked about on this show before. And there's a lot of information online if you want to see exactly how that started. But again, 2016, 2017, sparked by, protests from teachers and lawyers, but there's obviously decades of history behind it, and it's still ongoing. So in your asylum case, I don't know at what point, the time frame we're talking about, but was there already precedent? Were there people before you who had made that asylum case on the basis of persecution, the Anglophone crisis, or were you kind of one of the first people who were making that case at the time?
I think the idea of people, or the process of people coming to the United States from Cameroon to seek asylum was, goes decades, goes as long as the history of Cameroon is. So I think there's definitely been precedents before me, and so I don't think I was the first person. But yeah, it's something that I had to navigate the system for, and I think there's definitely been people, pioneers of the struggle, people who had fled long time ago with, when into it, really, really bad at the start of, the crisis. So before we were fleeing in late 2016 and 2017.
Got it.
I
So
also want to
obviously,
chime in. Sorry, I wanted to chime in and say we could consider that there was the first wave of like asylum seekers in the early 90s with the advent of multi-party politics, because it was a really chaotic time in Bamenda. There was a lot of like civil unrest and uprising. Houses were burned. And so the first wave of like SDF, which is a political party in Cameroon, Social Democratic Front, which was headquartered in Bamenda, there was a lot of, I'll say, violence with that. And so the first wave of what was to come in 2016 definitely happened in the early 90s.
Good point. So, I mean, obviously your personal experience was, I assume, one factor behind, you founding Cameroon Advocacy Network, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that journey, when you decided to, start it, and what the experience has been so far?
Yeah, sure. I think the idea Cameroon Advocacy Network started as something else, even way, way back when I was still in Cameroon. Along with my friends, we ran a program called Street Relief, which was basically helping homeless kids. I think you guys are probably familiar with, along the commercial venue or along the Avenue Kennedy, Yaoundé, or around the Botanic Garden, Yaoundé. And so my friends and I ran a program where we try to assist these kids to get them off the streets, right? We pick one or two kids, trying to find out why is it that they're on the street. And so that's where, my idea of helping people came from, or advocating came from. And long story short, the 1 year that I spent in immigration detention and my journey to America taught me a lot of things about information. And that's why I said earlier that this is really important for us to understand how systems work. And I realized that, in as much as people were fleeing, in the chaos, you don't have time to really understand what's going on. You're just running and scrambling for your life and trying to find safety and trying to find life itself. You're not able to grasp and understand what's happening around you, or trying to understand the process of what's happening around you. So that was the point where I started to realize that there's a need for a hub, an information hub, a hub where people can anchor, especially Cameroonians, especially Black migrants. It all started where the journey from Cameroon to here, have no understanding what you're doing, have no information what you're doing. That's not what Cameroon is focused on, but it's focused on when people are already here. Right? When people are in detention, they have no idea what process they are in. They have no idea, what they need to do just to speed up the process, or what next step they need to take. So that's where I started understanding that there's need for a hub, an anchor that could really assist Cameroonians. And so basically, when I was in detention, we had our evening gatherings where we would sing and we pray, we try to encourage each other, try to know each other, because that was the only way we could comfort ourselves. We are locked up jail. You have yourself, the times we gathered somewhere, the blacks we gathered somewhere and stuff like that. It was It was a sad scene, but that's the only way we could get through that moment because again, language barrier was an issue. You gotta stick with people for safety, what's in jails, a lot of things happen, like getting stabbed, getting killed. It's very important that you stay within your community and try to stay with people that you're familiar with. And so during that process of gathering even and singing and praying and sharing information, we have some people who understood the process, like myself and other folks who were on there that can explain, okay, when it's your interview, when you have to go to court, you have a lawyer. Is your lawyer a good lawyer? And I'm really hoping that we can try to address the issue about like lawyers, Cameroonian lawyers versus Cameroonian clients one day in our community. But you try to understand your lawyer, having a good lawyer. Does anybody here have an experience with that lawyer? Can you guys give guidance? Because a lot of people fell into issues because of their lawyers. That aside, so that's where the idea came from. And so right in the intention, Cameroon Advocacy Network was already operating, but not in the hub that it is today. And so, long story short, after my release from detention, I noticed that there were a lot of resources for non-Black migrants. A lot of organizations, a lot of platforms that were there to support Black migrants. We had a few for Black migrants as well. We had a very one or two for Cameroonians, but it was not the substance that I was looking for, right? And so, again, that motivated me even more, right, to create Cameroon Advocacy Network. And so basically the idea was that due to the, my deep-seated commitment to address the pressing human rights violations faced by Cameroonians, particularly in the light of the Anglophone crisis and other issues that are going on in Cameroon, they birthed Cameroon Advocacy Network, right, to try to assist Black migrants, Cameroonians who have fled the violence in Cameroon or the instability in Cameroon, and they find themselves in the United States or along the journey to make it to the United States. We founded Cameroon Advocacy Network to provide assistance to those folks. More information can be found on our website, cameroonadvocacynetwork.org, where our services runs from legal assistance, deportation or removal defense, post-release assistance, bond assistance, humanitarian assistance. Even just the past 2 years, we've been doing career orientation, resume building, driving lessons, English as a second language. So there's a lot of things that we are going to do. Again, the idea is to equip the community to thrive. A lot of people are not able to thrive after arriving in America because just basically one lack of information or lack of exposure. So that's one of the things that we actually do apart from our advocacy work on human rights issues. When it comes to the question of that's basically so again, our mission is to advocate for justice, protection, and the rights for Cameroonians to promote, as I say, sustainable solutions through advocacy, coalition building, and community empowerment.
That's awesome. Thank you. Speaking of coalition, I know that Cameroon Advocacy Network does a lot of work with a Haitian organization, right? Or an organization that also advocates for Haitian immigrants. How did that collaboration come about?
Yeah, so when I was in law school, I started volunteering for this organization called the Haitian Bridge Alliance, which I still work with them today, right up to this day. So Cameroon Advocacy Network was kind of founded under the umbrella of the Haitian Bridge Alliance again at the time starting. So that's where I anchor. The executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance, Daniel Tse, has played a tremendous role in assistance for Black migrants and especially Haitians, who are, fleeing from Haiti as well. And so I draw a lot of my inspiration from her. And so I started volunteer in the Haitian Bridge Alliance, who has done a lot of tremendous work in assisting and supporting Cameroonians as well.
Awesome. Bila, you had a question too?
No, well, my question was just given that the work that you do can be really heavy emotionally for your well-being, how do you take care of yourself and how do you stay motivated to keep doing the work that you do? I mean, you mentioned that while in detention, it was essential for community gathering every evening and praying, but on the day-to-day, how do you take care of yourself to make sure that you are able to keep advocating for others?
1-3 for one small Guinness when we get to trading just. But all jokes aside, it's kind of hard. It's hard. It's really, really heavy. And there's something else I'm going to share with you guys at the end of this podcast that actually made me cry today. All right, it's really a roller coaster of emotions. Sometimes you cry, sometimes you laugh, sometimes you rejoice of the victory, sometimes you cry of the failures, and so it's really, really emotionally draining. I used to think that I'm like a special breed, but I'm not. My own personal experience is heavy on me, but I think I have um I think I've passed that level where I'm still like crying every day about what happened, or about the things I've been through. But now that it gives me a drive and inspiration to want to do more to help other folks who shouldn't go through what I went through. But the reality is it is hard to navigate these issues. Yeah. In the midnight, I would get a call from somebody from detention saying, Louisiana, oh my gosh, they're going to deport me right now. Help me, please do something. And there's nothing I can do. It's midnight. They're wrapping them up to put them up in the plane. Who am I going to call? I know somebody at the Congress. I know somebody at the Department of Homeland Security. I know somebody at the Department. I'm calling them at that time. There's nothing they can do. Right. So, it's really sad to know that, because we know what's going to happen to that person, one of that person's lives in Somaliland or Yaoundé, right? And I'm like, oh my God, what can I do? I cannot do anything. So I'm not able to sleep anymore. I'm just like, if it's so, I think about what's going to happen to this person. Today, I got a call from somebody who was trying to cross the border, again, because of how desperate people are. Two of these individuals, like Cameroonians, they try to cross the fence. They try to jump over the fence, they try to escalade, as we say in Cameroon language, to scare the fence. They try to jump the fence, and one of them was already almost going down. The other person was coming above, and the person fell and pushed the person that was down. Both of them fell. Now this person has a broken waist. Another person has a broken leg. So it's things like this that just make them like, wow, it's really, really painful to navigate these things. Another instance, again, I'm not wanting to sound the mood, but it's the reality. I must talk about these things. I have a young lady in Colombia right now whose legs have been amputated. Why? Because she was, in a boat, about to get on the boat, on the river, living from Colombia, crossing into Panama, and there was a stampede, and she was about to get on the boat. Everybody's trying, because people don't know how to swim. Once the boat is about to reach shore, people are trying to just get out, and so her leg got stuck in the sand, and people stomped on her, and that's how she lost her leg right there. And before that, she had been shot in Cameroon, right on her ankle. Before leaving, actually the leg was even getting, it was bad. And now she's lost both legs, and she's back in Colombia. And I've been working with her for the past 1 month. So these are the three things that are on my mind recently, and that it's just so heavy. It's just so heavy. But what some of the things, to lighten up the environment, some of the things that keep me going is I love music. I love to play music. I go to church. I play with my choir. I sing. I just try to do things that will lighten the load. Again, trying to give myself some grace that it's just because I don't have anything to do. I cannot help in any way and go in that way. But at the same time, it's a drive. It's an inspiration for me to keep up with the work that I'm doing and for us to continue to advocate for the community. And this should be a call to action for everybody in the community to understand that we must take action in some way or the other. One aspect or another can make a big deal. Be it through a podcast, to an amazing podcast like this one, be it to whatever platform you have, be it to whatever connection you have. Talk about these issues. Tell a friend to do something, because it is very important that there is exposure, there is accountability for the things that are happening to our communities.
Agreed. And I just want to make sure, because I don't know if all of our listeners are familiar. Can you just tell us like a typical journey, right? Because people might not understand how somebody from Cameroon is crossing via South America, across the Mexican border into Cameroon. So can you just tell us like what is the journey from somebody who has left Cameroon? I know it's not all the same, but how would a person leave Cameroon and find themselves on the Mexican border trying to cross?
Right. Again, this is not headline. This is not doculine. I'm not here to be people. We have to be very careful. This is a matter between life and death. We have to be very careful here.
Mm-hmm.
But people use various ways to find safety, right? People get on cargo section of planes. People, they do all sorts of things to be able to find life, like I call it, right? And so typically folks will leave from either, because they fled into Nigeria or Malawi or Central African Republic or Ghana, wherever they find themselves, because they can no longer stay home because how unstable it is. I know that before, I don't know if you see the case, Cameroon, Ecuador used to be visa free. So you just need a Cameroonian passport to find yourself in Ecuador. But I know that in the late 2019, 2019 and 2018, the Canadian government was really insisting that Ecuador should deport all the Cameroons that were fleeing to Ecuador, and so maybe that's not still the case. I'm not sure, but that's the typical route. Based from the interviews that were conducted with folks, or based on the intake that our team has done with folks who are receiving our services. We find out that folks live from Cameroon to Nigeria or any neighboring country to Ecuador, and then from Ecuador they make the journey through Colombia, and then Panama, to the jungle, to the Darien Gap. Again, I say this, it might sound a little bit ordinary, but it's a very, very difficult journey. Folks can look it up, the Darien Gap. It's a nightmare. And our folks kind of simplify this just based on the fact that they've, been used to hardship, walking several hours to go to the farm or doing all these things, but it is a very, very crazy experience, a matter of life and death. People see skeletons of bones of dead people, or to go be eaten by animals. People see people who have drowned in the river. So it's really a matter of life and death, although we might just say like something casual. And so folks make it through Panama, and then after Panama they make it to Costa Rica by foot or by bus or by bicycle, whatever means of transportation they have, make your way right up, maybe it's, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, right up to the Mexican border, where they now seek asylum at the border of the United States.
Yeah. And I was not asking the question to kind of, promote, but I really wanted to emphasize the level of desperation, right? That it would take somebody to go through all of those things, like you were saying, moving through the jungle where there are wild animals. There are other armed groups within South America that also pose a threat to people moving through. So it's just to emphasize that, people are not making that journey just because they want to come and eat chicken. Like it's not for vibes. They're actually it's a life and death, and that's the level of desperation. Okay, so June marks 2 years since TPS, or temporary protected status, was granted or designated for Cameroonians in the US, and Cameroon Advocacy Network was doing a lot of work to spread awareness, to petition the administration to pass this designation. And that was a big win, right, for the Cameroonian immigrant community when that passed. So can you just tell us why this designation is important, and, what does it mean for the Cameroonian immigrant community, or any immigrant that has that designation for their country in the US? What are the benefits?
Temporary protected status, it's a win, like we call it, but basically it's a deserved designation. And I'm going to first of all begin by explaining what temporary protected status is, right? And so people ought to actually understand why we call it a win, or why we not call it a win, and how it is very important. So basically, temporary protected status, going forward, I'm going to say TPS or CPS. It's a form of immigration relief that is being provided to a particular country, right? And this relief is being issued by the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security after receiving recommendations from the White House and the State Department. And so why should a country be designated for TPS, right? And so this status is designated for a period of 18 months. It is renewable, and it is designated based on some certain conditions or thresholds, and so the first is that a country can be designated for TPS. That country meets the following conditions. First, there must be an ongoing armed conflict. Second, there must be an environmental disaster, or something like an earthquake or a natural disaster that's going on in the country. Or thirdly, you say other extraordinary temporary conditions. Extraordinary temporary dangerous conditions. And so that's what TPS is. And so Cameroon falls exactly within that threshold because there's an ongoing armed conflict in Cameroon, and it meets that criteria for it to be designated for TPS. And so once this is designated, during that designated period, any national of that country who is in the United States is protected from deportation. They can obtain work authorization, and they may be granted an opportunity to travel through what we call a travel authorization. And so that's the basic about TPS. Now, it's very important for us to understand that TPS is only applicable for those who are already in the United States at the time of designation. It is not a pull factor. It means to protect those who are already in the country. And so why we really, really insisted that CPS should be designated was because, at the time in late 2020, 2019, and so we started seeing a lot of deportations to Cameroon, right? Again, because you guys mentioned the first wave of people who came in, and so a lot of people went out in asylum, and now there are a lot of Cameroonians in detention, and now, they were going to be deported. People were going for their ICE check-ins, and they were picking them up and locking them up in detention, and then deporting them, right? And so there was a need for us to find a blanket relief that could protect people from deportation. And so TPS was kind of the solution. And so we now advocated for that relief. And again, there's been a lot of other Cameroonian organizations and groups that have been asking for TPS before Cameroon Advocacy Network was created, but we really carried the baton for this advocacy, and we led the way into victory. And so that involved a lot of different angles of work: direct advocacy, grassroots advocacy, meetings with the White House, meetings with the State Department, meetings with the Homeland Security, and so a lot of those meetings in order for us to meet that level of getting TPS. Now, it's very important that we understand the reality of the system, right? At the same time, when we're asking for TPS to Cameroon, we had the war in Ukraine that broke out, right, where Russia was attacking Ukraine, and within 1 week, Ukraine was granted temporary protected status. Why? Because there's an ongoing conflict. There's an ongoing armed conflict in Ukraine, right? Mind you, at the same time, we've been asking for TPS to Cameroon for over 2 years, and we still didn't get an answer. That's the reality of the system, in that when it comes to Black migrants or when it comes to African migrants, the availability of relief is always an extra layer of fight. It's always an uphill battle, right? When it comes to non-Black folks, it's always every carpet that's being rolled for these folks. And so that's the reality. And so we always say immigration is a Black issue. Same issues that black folks face in this country, the same issues that Black migrants face as well. That's a very, very sensitive conversation, initially around Juneteenth, but that's the reality, right? And, secondly, we really, really fought for temporary protected status because we had a lot of Cameroonians who were in detention, who were at the verge of getting deported, and sadly, a lot of them got deported before we were able to win temporary protected status. Right, and so that was the main reason why temporary protected status, because that was a form for us to get blanket relief to protect a lot of these folks that were at risk of getting deported. And so, to directly answer the question, temporary protected status for Cameroon was a crucial victory, right? For Cameroonians, for Cameroonian immigrants who were facing instability and persecution upon access in the United States, because this victory provided we could say some legal protection for deportation, allowing these individuals to stay in the United States and to contribute to their communities and to contribute to the United States economy as well, right? Without fear of being deported or being removed. And so CPS offered a lifeline to thousands of Cameroonians. Now, my original estimate when I was applying for CPS was that 1,000 Cameroonians were going to benefit from CPS, right? And so thousands of them are able to have their lives changed, right? And so this now ensures their safety, their stability, and for them to navigate, life, and even something to navigate the complex asylum process. It's something very important that we don't often talk about that is attached to TPS. TPS also tagged along with something we call special student relief package. Right, that's something that we often don't talk about it, but special student relief package is also a protection that is offered for 18 months for students, for Cameroonian students who are in the United States with expired student visas and who would also want to return to Cameroon because of the fear of return. And so we also were able to tag that with the protected status. And so last year, 2 years ago, I was doing rounds at colleges and universities, encouraging students to apply for SSR, Special Student Relief Package. It's sad to see that a lot of our Cameroonian siblings who came here to study have degrees in their pocket, master's degrees, and all sorts of degrees, end up washing plates in restaurants. And no wrong, no offense, it's very important, in job, but people who are dreamers and people who are, with a degree in your pocket, you feel the pain, right? And so CPS was another opportunity for them to step up in life again and able to use that degree that they earned, right? And so special student relief package is an opportunity for them. So thousands of students, Cameroonian students who are in the United States, who are asylum seekers, are being able to benefit as well from TPS and special student relief package. And so, that's what TPS has been. And so the past, 3 years we've been really, really focusing on TPS, and we organize what we call a monthly TPS clinics where we host a virtual clinic and in-person clinics where we help people apply for TPS. And so please, if you're listening to this and you've not yet applied for TPS, please go and apply. I can answer questions, just reach out to our organization, Cameroon Advocacy Network, and we can help you navigate the system. A lot of issues with TPS. People are wanting to find out more. There's a lot of resources that are available for you online. Just read and do your research. There's also the question about whether you can apply for TPS even if your asylum case is still pending. Yes, you can apply. Again, this is just for information purposes. Everybody's case is unique. Trying to seek your advice, but the basic idea is that, you should apply for TPS if you're eligible, because it serves as a plan B, right? As a plan B for your immigration case. And so it's also another form of really, if asylum doesn't work out, now you're considered with TPS. It is a reality, because I've seen people's life change in 18 months with TPS, because now they can work, they can do, they can exist like a normal person without the fear, I'm sure you both understand the reality of living. You probably know friends, you probably have family members or friends who are in America who are under asylum pending. You know how the stress is, they don't have nothing. That is not a status. TPS actually gives you a status. And through that, you can do other things. You can adjust status, you can cancel, you can travel, all that kind of stuff. And the joke I'm going to use is that, I think we use this in secondary school, that with asylum pending, they're writing your name on sand. But with TPS, at least they're writing your name with pencil. It means that it's hard for you to be erased. And so, if somebody can use that example to understand, then they understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that special student relief, that's a huge deal, because the tension for students who come on a visa, the tension of the stress of knowing that you have this time period to find work and the clock is ticking. Listen, that's a big win. No, that's a really big win. And yeah, I was so happy to see that pass. So how does it work now, right? Is there a certain review period where the government, goes back and has to kind of reapprove that designation and essentially has to review Cameroon and say, yes, the country still qualifies for this designation? What is that review period?
So right now, Cameroon has an active designation of TPS. It means that Cameroon's currently under TPS until I have to verify
I had it pulled up.
Yeah, Cameroon has an active designation of TPS, and so anybody who is already in the country as of or on before December 8th of 2023 can apply for TPS. It's active for 18 months.
Okay.
And so right until 2025 next year, you have an active designation of TPS. So right until June 2025 of next year, Cameroon is still undergoing the crisis, or there's still instability in Cameroon, and we don't have a solution yet as to what's going on in Cameroon. Then we can still advocate for a redesignation, because remember I said from the start, this is granted for the country if the country is going through an ongoing conflict. And so those are the criteria that we're able to advocate for TPS. And so with that, we can able to request for a redesignation. Right now, I'm working on the redesignation campaign for temporary protected status for Haiti. Right, Haiti TPS is going to expire in about 54 days, and so the government has a 60-day period to make the decision. The government has to make the decision 60 days before the expiration date of a particular designation. I mean, that makes sense. So, for example, if TPS was to expire today on the 20th, the government has 60 days before the 20th to make the decision to redesignate. So like I said, Haiti TPS will expire in about 50 days. And so right now we are working for the redesignation of Haiti. And so that's going to be the same thing we're going to work for on Cameroon next year.
Okay. So this was a good question that Bilala had, actually. Do you have any numbers or estimates for the number of asylum seekers from Cameroon prior to the Anglophone crisis in 2016, 2017? Like, do you have estimates of how that has increased? Because like you said earlier, Cameroonians were seeking asylum in the US prior to, the Anglophone crisis the current Anglophone crisis, but do you have any estimate of how those number of asylum seekers has increased as a result of the crisis?
I don't have that estimate handy. I'll have to start scribbling through my computer now to try to dig
No
where that
worries.
information is. But we've gone through those numbers before. If I had this question beforehand, maybe I would have be able to prepare those numbers for you guys. But basically, it's a significant number. We did this estimate when we're advocating for the initial designation of TPS. You have to also understand how many people would actually benefit from TPS. And I said at that time we estimated that about 40,000 Cameroonians will be eligible to benefit from TPS, be it asylum seekers or students. And so we're at 40,000. And so as of now, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but it's something that I can basically email some of my contacts that, and tell our security to figure out what that number is. Or maybe I can do a FOIA request. Yeah.
And I know that you said, obviously each case, is a case by case, right? Each asylum case is individual and is reviewed individually. But I don't know if you're seeing like a trend on like the prospects for people who are Cameroonians who are seeking asylum. Like, are they, getting approved more often than not? Are they not getting approved? Like, what are the prospects for asylum seekers?
So, interestingly, there's a trend that's going on within the immigration system, the immigration justice system, or the criminal justice system of that, based on your skin color, there's a double standard that's been placed for you, or based on where you're coming from, there's a double standard that's been placed for you, even at the level of the embassies in various countries. Right now we're working on a project where we're trying to advocate for, visa issuing for various countries. When it comes to African countries, the visa numbers are very low as compared to other countries, right? And so you go there, they just tell you no and give you this vague piece of paper and they send you away, right? It's kind of the same with the immigration system. And so there's that trend of that, Black immigrants in the United States often have a double standard. They have to meet a higher threshold to prove that the asylum cases are valid, or to prove that this is the reason why they were fleeing from their various home countries as compared to other. Even when it comes to them requesting parole to be released from detention, when it comes to them requesting bond to be released from detention. So like I mentioned is that we do bond assistance. I direct another organization which is called the Black Immigrants Bail Fund, which was established only to pay bonds for Black migrants, again because of the double standard that Black migrants face in the immigration system, where Black migrants will be issued high amounts of bonds compared to other migrants. When I was in detention, I had a bond of $17,500. My bunk mate on the same cell had a bond of 1,500, and I asked myself, why did he have 1,500? Why did I have 13,000? I said, okay, let me see the documents that you provided. Right, mind you, I had a document from a church. I had a supported that from a church. I had supported that from my auntie, my uncle. I had a lot of supporting documents. I had my ID card and stuff to prove that I'm not a flight risk. This person basically submitted, a photocopied ID and one letter from their sponsor, and they gave him a lower bond. I had all this package of documents to prove that, hey, I have community support. I'm not a flight risk. I'm going to stay where you send me to stay. I'm not going to run away. I'm not a terrorist in America. But despite all of that threshold that I met, I was still given a higher amount of bond. And so that's the reality with the immigration courts. Why? Because again, this is probably not what happens in every single court, but it's the majority. It's what we've noticed based on the services that we provide and based on the research that we've done working with the community. We have a higher denial rates for Black migrants as compared to other migrants. There are a lot of reports around this that we've worked on directly. And so that's the trend. I cannot give you exact numbers, but basically Cameroonian migrants are attached to other Black migrants are often denied asylum or denied release or denied relief, immigration relief, as compared to other non-Black migrants. Now, Cameroon itself has a very, very solid base for asylum, right? But now the issue comes where, like I said, and it's proper representation. Folks don't understand how to properly present this case. Now, take for example, there is a murder, right? Somebody committed a homicide. and the person goes to court. Even if it's a slam dunk case, if the evidence are not properly provided in court, or if things are not properly outlined, there may be some issues in the trial, right? And so it's not exactly the same comparison. I just so you can have an idea that even if it's immigration, people need to have access to information, access as to how to present the case. You don't just go to the court because you're from Cameroon and think you're going to win asylum. No, actually present that case to the court, as it's supposed to be, according to how the laws of this country work for your granted asylum. That's the right, and that's one of the things that we do at Cameroon Advocacy Network. Every month, we do our monthly detention trips where we go to various detention centers across the country, provide know your right, sessions to folks who are in detention, because that's what I needed when I was in detention. I needed somebody to tell me that, hey, this is what you can do. This is how you can navigate the system. This is the question that you can ask. This is how you can present your case. And so we do that to educate people about how to either represent themselves or to have their attorneys adequately represent them. And so, again, back to the question is that, there is a higher threshold or higher double standards for Black migrants, especially, and makes it that there's a low ground for asylum cases.
I have a follow-up question.
Unfortunate.
Sorry, Naga. I have a follow-up question because I like to think of things in terms of numbers. Are there different field offices? Because I know immigration tends to have different field offices. Do you keep numbers of because first question is asylum offices are granted by the government. You don't get to pick wherever your case lands, right? Like if you're in detention and you have a case, how is that assigned? How are you assigned? Is it assigned at that particular detention center? You're on mute.
Yeah, let's go into immigration 101 now. So there's a difference in where you file your asylum or how you got into the country. For somebody who gets through the southern border and comes in the right way, as they say, through inspection, and that person normally is supposed to be put in detention. The United States has a mandatory detention policy for all immigrants that are coming to the country through the southern border. They're going to be placed in detention. Now, what detention you learn is not by your power. It's not even by whether your sponsor is based there or not. They determine which detention has a bed space available before they send you there, right? And so now, when you're in the detention, if the detention is found in California, right, you fall within, that particular field office, that jurisdiction, right? That's the 9th circuit, area where the immigration courts fall within that circuit, right? So if you fall in, the 5th circuit area, in Louisiana or in Texas, that's a different area. So now if you are in the detention, you're filing a defensive asylum in the case, means that you're submitting asylum to the immigration court, right? It means that you're now under the Office of Executive Office of Immigration Review. That's the EOIR, right? And so you're under the immigration court, right? And so now that's one sector. Now, if you come in through the airport or you come in through, you're overstaying your visa or you're a student, you're not applying for asylum, you're applying to the asylum office. That's through the United States Customs and Immigration Office. That's completely different. Right, so that's out of the courts. Now, somebody who is in detention in California gets released from detention before he goes for his court hearing and goes and stays in Maryland, right? He now is going to do a change of address and change the address now to the Maryland courts. And that's going to be under the circuit where the Maryland is found. And so that's how it's been jumbled. And so, yes, where you are detained, that's basically where your immigration case is going to be or where you stay. Right, that's the field on the jurisdiction where it must sit. And now comes the interesting part, where the way they shuffle people makes it in such a way that they put them in what I call the black hole, Louisiana, where in the late 2020s, a lot of asylum seekers, Cameroonians, and other Black migrants that we found in the California area, because these are called sanctuary states, and a little bit here with the way the granted asylum is, and so now these folks are being transferred to what I call the black hole. They've been transferred to Louisiana and all the others, Alabama, Stewart or in Montgomery in Pennsylvania or Stewart in Georgia. So they've been transferred to all of these places, right? And now it's what we call the black hole because one, they're isolated from support in the middle of nowhere. I was in Louisiana, 2 months ago, I had to drive about 3 hours just to get to the facility. It's 3 hours away from the closest city, in the middle of nowhere, away from any resource that these people could ever get to. And so, that's the interesting part. And I'm trying to shove these people into this area, and that's where a lot of Cameroonians were detained in 2019 and 2020 because they were being deported. And so, yes, where you're detained, it's kind of determines where your case is.
Okay, so we're shifting a bit back home, right? So the Anglophone crisis, it's still very much ongoing. It may not be making the same headlines that it did in the previous years. So just your own personal, assessment on the current state of the crisis, and what do you think? I don't even want to ask what do you think is the solution, but what do you think would be the realistic
Maybe I have the solution.
resolution?
I don't know.
Okay, tell us if you do. What do you think would be like what do you foresee for the future of this crisis? Yeah.
I'm just taking deep breaths because I've been just, having chills. I was talking to mom today, and, I don't know if you guys are tracking, but this young man who is even handicapped, whose taxi got burned, recently, and there's just a lot of other issues that are happening, and, it just gives me chills to kind of talk about this thing because it's very, very severe, but yet the severity of it is not being spoken about. And I had the same issues when we were advocating for TPS. And I'm not going to quote any media channel, but one of the world's most prominent media channels. I had an interview scheduled with them to talk about the crisis in Cameroon. I got on the platform, I was talking with journalists, and, we're talking about cities of Cameroon and the work that I'm doing and how we could advocate for Cameroonians and exposure of, the crisis that's going to come. And this guy was like, excuse me, we have, to take this breaking news right now. We have to go and report on Ukraine and talk about what's going on in Ukraine. And like, the same people that are dying in Ukraine are dying in Cameroon as well. You guys should report on what's going on in Cameroon, right? And so it's the reality. Mainstream media is not talking about it. Again, when this whole thing started, we saw the first attempt of the government was to shut down the internet because they didn't want the outside world to know about it. And it's the same thing happening today. People don't want to talk about this thing. One, because we're so used to oppression. Even if we're able to talk about, these things, we often get shut down or being killed or being silenced. We have also many journalists who have been killed because they can't talk about it or report what the realities. I hope this doesn't get in trouble one day, but we have the reality on the ground that's not being talked about, right? And so that's the main problem right there. There's the assessment that the crisis in Cameroon is amongst the top most neglected crisis in the world, right? It means that it's the human rights situation is so severe that people are not talking about it. The world's not talking about it. Why? Why do we not care about the lives that have been lost in Cameroon? We should all care about it. And so the Anglophone crisis, as we call it, has precipitated widespread violence and human rights abuses in Cameroon, both in the English regions and the French regions. There's a leading significant increase of Cameroonians seeking asylum in various parts of the world because of the crisis in Cameroon, right? Many have fled persecution, arbitrary arrest, targeted attacks, and all sorts of things. Who have fled for their lives. Thousands have been internally displaced, both in and out of Cameroon. And so, what is the solution for all of this, right? What's the future of all of this? So, my basic answer is that the future of Cameroon's political landscape hinges on efforts towards an inclusive dialogue and reconciliation. This dialogue term, because I'm like, there's dialogue that came in last time, but people should read into the lines about what I'm saying. There needs to be an absolute respect for human lives or human rights. Everybody involved in this, right? Because at the point where we are right now, it's the mere man that is dying, the basic person that is suffering, our families back home, our kids who have not gone to school for 5 years now. people who've lost their lives just by basically opening the door in the morning, right? So that's what I'm talking about here. We should try to reconsider that. People are going to come at me and say there is no change without bloodshed, there is no this, that. No, I think there could be another way around this. Addressing the root cause of this crisis requires sustained. It's going to start with sustained diaspora pressure, whatever it is. I don't know how to speak anymore. It's going to have to come from us, especially those of us who are in the diaspora. Because I think the people who are back home, they're done. They're tired. That is never. It's just nothing that they can do. Now, a commitment to transparent governance and accountability has failed. Right, the government we have in this country today has failed. I'm going to divert a little bit. I'm sure you guys probably or probably not follow soccer or Cameroon football. Maybe we do, but you guys are probably familiar with the recent issues, with the Football Federation in Cameroon and the Ministry of Sports. There's a lot of drama right around that, and that's basically the issue of the Anglophone crisis, because people are unable to understand the reality of something. Number two, because we're already used to oppression. I have a bunch of old people who are there who are power hungry, and as they say, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts. Absolutely, who want things to go on their own terms, on their own way, and they don't want to see change in no way. Right? We have a federation that was established to go run things in a particular way. They will have somebody else who's coming. Think about it like in America. We have the state of Maryland who is supposed to manage its own affairs, and now the federal government wants to come and impose that, okay, this is going to be the governor of Maryland. It doesn't work that way. So that's the same thing in Cameroon, right? We have been unable to understand that the change that we are looking for has to come with us understanding how our system works, right? And so be it, those who are fighting on one side and be it the government that is oppressing the people, we need to rethink our strategy. So the path going forward involves fostering unity. Unity in what? No, again, people are asking unity in what? Unity in the ideology that we're even searching for. Because right now there's no unity in whatever it is that people are looking for. People want separation, people want federation, people want all sorts of things. If there is no unity, as to what we are looking for, then we're not going to get there. Right? It needs to be to uphold, and say we need to uphold, the principles of human rights and human lives. We need to reconsider the actions that we take. Again, the voices in the bushes are only doing what they're doing because they're fed up, based on whatever leadership they had. Again, I'm saying this with all fear because I know the reflections of, probably you guys have to edit this. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's really sad because of how many people are dying and it's still not ringing the bell. And so basically the future of this crisis, or the solution for this crisis, is going to require for us to really, really rethink a strategy for us going forward. We need to take everything into account to ensure that it is, unity, whatever it was that we're looking for. We're looking for, federation or separation, or a change in power, or whatever it is. We need to go forward with one ask, and I think for me that's the solution, because every other ideology has failed.
I think so. What you're saying, and especially when it comes to awareness, the last time I was in Cameroon, which was maybe 5 years ago, I went to Boya, right? And living in Douala, it was a night and day experience. And talking to people in Douala, it was mind-boggling how clueless it seemed that people in Douala were to the reality of what people in Boya and Bamenda and in the Anglophone region are experiencing. And so when we talk about we need the awareness and we need unity in what we're fighting for, I want to say charity begins at home, and at home people have no idea. They just have absolutely no idea what is going on by choice or by matter of circumstance. Because I want to say that every English speaking Cameroonian who lives in Cameroon right now has had an internally displaced person living with them every single family has had to help out somebody. And in the diaspora, I want to say almost everybody has had to help out family who has had to flee their homes and move to a different city where they know nobody to survive. And so how can we be living in these same spaces and people just have no idea of the magnitude of what has happened? People living in Cameroon who are unable to go to Bamenda, for, even to bury their loved ones, they're unable to go home. And it's just something that everybody seems to be okay with the status quo. Because, like you said, the truth about it is a win for, I would say, good governance or federalism or whatever good governance looks like in Cameroon is a win for everybody, not just the Anglophone region. But somehow that message is not translating, and we keep talking about it, and it's the average person on the ground who is suffering.
Yeah, like I said, people are used to oppression. People, like, well, what am I going to do about it? I'm done. The people who are in, the regions that there's a little bit of stability, are living fine, are living large, and as far as it's just told me on this, and that's the reality, even in America, and that's the challenges that we face with the community here in America, because the family members are now safe, because you are now in America and safe and sound, and you have asylum. You don't care about anything else. You don't even want to share the flyer that we sent about the reality of the crisis in Cameroon, asking for TBS. You don't even want to share about the crisis anymore, or don't want to share about the resources that other people could benefit from, because you're safe and sound, right? And so it's the same mentality of those who are in Cameroon. Those who are in Cameroon who are in Douala or other places are safe, right? And because they're safe, there is no clue, again, like you said, either based by choice or by circumstance, that they don't know what's going on. They really don't care, right? And so that's where it needs to change. Again, a lot of factors are in place by choice, by the fact that a lot is not being talked about. Even, the media we have in Cameroon, people, no, you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm sure, I was trying to, listen to the previous episode of this podcast, and I think you guys have covered a lot about the realities on the ground of the crisis. And, the reality is this issue needs to be talked about. It's not just in Cameroon. It cuts across the region in many other countries. Think about a country like DRC, right? I had a meeting today with other partners who are working on some form of relief as well for the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mauritania as well. You guys know that as of today, there's still slavery going on in Mauritania. Yeah. DRC, we all know, we all hear, some of the things that are going on there. The average person doesn't know about it. Again, we want to blame it on mainstream media because it's not being reported on. We want to blame it on whoever it is that have interest in covering this. Another question we'll ask ourselves is like, how do we hear about the other issues in the world when we don't hear about the issues that are happening in Cameroon? Right? What are the things that we could do? And so again, like I said, I'm putting it on my activist hat. This is supposed to be a call for the community for us to rethink, and rethink. The idea of us being humane and upholding the basic principles of human rights. What can you do to take action and to bring change? Not everybody is a change maker, but everybody is a change driver.
I love that. And it's the perfect segue to what I was about to ask next is, for us, the Cameroonian community in the US, how can we support the efforts of organizations like Cameroon Advocacy Network? Like what are some tangible action steps that we can take?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I think for the Cameroonian community, but in the United States, everywhere else in the diaspora, and for those who are back home, I want to say this: the Cameroonian community is already playing a vital role in supporting the Cameroon Advocacy Network for those who are involved, and so that's already a starting point, right? And so the call to action is that everybody else to join an particular effort. It could be the Cameroon Advocacy Network. It could be something else that you think could be of support to the community. Please do something. And so through CAN or other similar advocacy projects, by engaging grassroots activism or amplifying voices of people who are talking about the issues, or advocating for policy change, or advocating for community support through volunteerism or fundraising, or spreading awareness about the human rights issues in Cameroon, all of that strengthens our collective impact. Right? And so the call for that to the community is that you don't necessarily need to be at Cameroon Advocacy Network to drive collect our collective impact. But we are all striving for a better Cameroon. We're all striving for a better society. We're all striving for a better world, right? And so, in as much as you are busy working, 10 hours in your nursing job, or working 15 hours in your IT job, or whatever it is that you're doing, take out time to remember somebody else who's lost a loved one, somebody else who's died because of the issues that are going to come out. Don't just be swimming in your luxury and enjoying your, your 6-figure job and enjoying the life that you're living, you're partying and vibing, because that's where you came from. It's very important that we always remember that. These are the realities that I face, because this is not to shock my community, but basically, there's a lot of people who are helped throughout the years, right? I'm not raising my flag up, but it's the reality. Thousands of people that have passed through either the Cameroon Advocacy Network or the Black Immigrants Bay Fund, either will help them at the border, or will help them, by paying their bond, or help them to get off of detention, or take them to the airport, or whatever way you've passed through me or the Cameroon Advocacy Network. There's one thing I've always said: go and do it to somebody else. And that is my hope, that the community, as they go into the community, they'll rethink this and try to take action. So again, reminder for the community: please, whatever space that you are in, whatever opportunity that you have in front of you, use it as a mechanism to drive change. Now, you can do it through the Cameroon Advocacy Network. If you go to our website, cameroonadvocacynetwork.org, we have a resource tab or a take action tab where you can sign up to be a Cameroon Advocacy Network member. And through that platform, we have what we call our monthly membership meetings. And during that meeting, that's where we discuss about issues that communities are facing. That's where we identify issues that need urgent action. We're able to address all these issues right there, and we'll plan collective actions for those issues. And so, be it for the Cameroonian immigrants that are here in the United States, be it for those who are stuck along the way, be it for the crisis in Cameroon, you can join us for us to take collective action, or you can join other organizations. There are a lot of other amazing Cameroonian organizations that are out there, and you could join them as well for us to fight for for the rights of Cameroonians in the United States, and for the solution of the crisis back home. And so now I'm going to let the cat out of the bag by saying that we are advocating for what we call a special humanitarian relief package for Cameroonians, for those who are stuck along the way, making the journey here. I don't know if you guys are tracking, but about 2 years ago, we had a situation where Cameroonian migrants, more than a dozen of them, died at sea in Antigua when they were trying to cross from St. Kitts, and so just like that, right? Like I said, just breaks my heart. We have this young lady who is stuck in Colombia. We have a lot of other people who are in various other vulnerable situations. And so we are trying, and again, those who are also in Cameroon, who are stuck in Cameroon. So we have a program with the Cuban, Haitians, and Nicaragua, we will call the CHNG program. And it's basically a special humanitarian process where these folks can be sponsored by, by family members or friends or sponsors who are in the United States, for them to come here and without making this horrible journey. So it's something I want to advocate for Cameroon, right? It's a very, very difficult ask. It's a very, very low percentage of going to see this through. And just like TBS, we had the idea and we fought through it and we won it, right? So it's the same idea for Cameroon, right? And so the call to action is that, if you think that there's nothing that you can do, you can definitely do something. So you can join the Cameroon Advocacy Network for us to bring our collective actions together, to push the president to use his executive power, to provide this form of relief for Cameroonians. So it's something that organizations are working on. We see some letters floating around from one organization, but we'll be doing a lot of background work. We'll be meeting with the administration in Cairo persuade them to take executive action to protect Cameroonians. And so that's one of the things that we're doing. Please, if you are eligible for TPS and you've not yet applied, please go and, like I said, it's important that you consult with your attorney, but if you know you're eligible to apply, please don't waste time. We have a whole eligibility guide on our website. Go to CameroonAdvocacyNetwork.com. You go to the resource tab, or you go to other tab right on this page. You're going to see a backgrounder or a, how do I call it, eligibility guide on our website, and it explains to you how to apply for TPS. Now, we had an estimate of about 40,000 people who were supposed to benefit from TPS. And we have only about 6,000 to 7,000 people who have actually applied. So we have a huge lot of people who have not yet grasped this benefit. And I can testify, I can bring people forth. I have seen people whose life have changed in 18 months. People who, somebody who was here, who was on the face of doing this, they have nowhere to, that person was even able to leave the house because I had to monitor. Guess what? In 10 months, that person has bought a house. Is that not a miracle? So, again, please, you can change your life this thing. So it's very important that we explore the resources that we have sitting in front of us. And it's very important not to pay attention to this. So anyway, now I'm done with my speech. Going back to the issue, it's very important that the community really, really involves itself in sharing information. So again, if you're hearing this, of a brother or a sister who has gone for an ICE check-in, who needs guidance or resources, we can point the person to basic information. The person can reach out to us to our website or email address on our website, and we can provide them with basic information, basic know your rights information, because information or knowledge is power.
Thank you. Bill, I had a closing question.
Yes, it's a long question, but it's also, I'll try to make it short. Basically, we know that a lot of these things are driven, when I say these things, immigration laws are driven by politics and who is in power. And we've heard the rhetoric about 25,000 people, or is 20, there's a 25 in the number that are supposed to be deported in January of 2025 if one candidate wins. And I believe them because we were all here in 2017 and we saw what happened with the what was it? They called it a Muslim ban, but it affected everybody. And so with TPS being temporary, a designation which might be tied to the executive, like, how do you brace yourself? Like, one, with the election coming, right? How do you feel about the election? And also, how are you bracing people who might be in detention? How do you help them keep the faith, knowing that it could change depending on what happens in November?
Okay, you're reminding me of how this is going to work. I'm bracing myself for impact. Yeah, it's something. Again, I had a conversation with one of my friends today about it. It's that kind of thing where you're like, exam is coming and you don't want to read, but exam is actually coming and you're like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to do laundry, but I don't want to do laundry, but you don't have no washing clothes. So it's that kind of idea, but no, all jokes aside, this is people's lives. We're taking it very serious. But it's just that it's so crazy that because there's just so much uncertainty. We know what's going to happen, but it's just so much, at the same time, so much uncertainty. There's just so much fear into it about what's going to happen that, there's just a lot of confusion, a lot of, what are we going to do? What are we going to do if this happens? So we're doing a lot of power mapping. We're doing a lot of brainstorming. We're doing scenario planning. We're putting it down on a Jamboard and saying, okay, if this happens, what are we going to do? If this happens, what are we going to do? If this happens, what are we going to do? So a lot of some of the ideas that we're trying to fetch down. So I'm looking at one of them now. And I think that we don't have a solution yet because we don't know what's going to happen. But I think that we pretty much we have pretty much an idea about what we could do in such certain situations. And to be honest with you guys, we have very limited actions to take based on some of the proposals that we've seen from whoever is it that's going to take power next year, right? We've seen that the former president has come up with some very, very extreme immigration proposals and numbers of what's going to happen. We've even seen how the current president himself is even going back to some of the border policies that were being brought forth by the former president, although he's mixing that with some good news and some good moves and then mixing with some bad moves. It's just a lot of uncertainties. And at the same time, the scenario planning that we've been doing, it's just basically just to prepare ourselves for battle. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And to add, that's the main reason why people need to get on business. Get on business. I have a lot of folks who are missing their ICE appointments, who are getting into, to DUIs and all sorts of stuff. It's the reality. I'm not going to shy away from it because we don't talk about it. It's the reality. Please don't get into trouble with the least misdemeanor or the least record you have with the least issue that you have. It's an open door for them to pick you up, right? It's true that you can still just go for your basic eye checking and they still wrap you up from there. That's what it is, but you don't want to give them that chance. So, as much as we are preparing ourselves for those who are in detention, we are trying as much as possible to provide them with as much assistance as we can for them to be released. Because if you are really in detention, you're already one step closer to the door of no return, rather than if you're outside, if they pick you up and take you back, you're in the way close, you're a little bit further in. And so it's important that folks, get educated about what the actions that they can take. For this invitation, we're trying to, provide them with know your rights and basic information about how you could advocate for your release and get them released as many as we can, because that's what we can do as now.
I think I just want to follow up what Daniel said. Like, we know it's summer, there are barbecues, there are parties. Please go easy on the green juice. I beg. Like, it's not worth it.
Are you talking about Stella?
Yes, a minute on the lips, a lifetime of regrets. It's such a serious state, and you're taking risks like getting a DUI or doing anything that will compromise your situation.
I agree, 100%.
All right, so for our listeners and viewers, CameroonAdvocacyNetwork.org is the website, and there's an Instagram, also Cameroon Advocacy Network, and like Daniel said, see, I'm misspeaking. Yeah. Okay, Cam Advocacy on Instagram. That's what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and for Cameroonians and anybody else who, wants to support the community, find out how you can take action, that would be the place to start. The website, CameroonAdvocacyNetwork.org. So we start our episodes with an icebreaker and we end with a proverb. Until next time.
Tiko drink kumba drink.
So can you give us your interpretation of that for the listeners?
I've not heard that in a very long time. What's so funny? My gosh. Wait, am I supposed to give my own program? I'm supposed to interpret what she said?
No, interpret that one.
Tiko drink kumba drunk. I'm trying to make a joke about it. Let me be serious about it. Only funny ideas that come into my head. In the world, in the Cameroon that we are today, in the Cameroon that we have today, we see that our leaders are drinking and this community is getting drunk.
Okay, that's a very deep. That's the deepest interpretation of that.
Yes.
From I've heard. Bilala, what were you going to say? What was your own?
It's like somebody buying. To me, it's like somebody buying a case. Like one person did something, but the effects, somebody else is like shouting for it. Yeah. Like you do something and the other person is shouting. So it's like, yeah, Tiko drink kumba drunk. Like how did kumba enter the picture?
Yeah.
So like fighting somebody's fight for them, that doesn't concern you.
Yeah.
I had a very funny story yesterday out of Ghana that, this, how once more he said, I'm going to go call my reto, I'm going to go call my backup, my bouncer to come and fight for me and stuff like that. So somebody went and looked for trouble and, and when the fight was more than him, he went and called for his bouncer or his backup or his reto. And the reto came to fight for him now and, they got the reto well beating and he lost his fight. So it's like, he tried, another person got drunk. So it's the same interpretation.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's funny.